So that you get athletes who just turn up. They'll turn up, they'll do the requisite amount of work, but that's it. Athletes will turn up to compete, they put a bit more effort in, they try to be the best amongst their group. Then there's the athletes who train to win. They train every day, every session, so that they win on match night. And then there are just those very few players who train to dominate. They train so hard that winning is inevitable on race night.
In this game I am about to show you, Magnus Carlsen shows what it means to train to dominate in chess by breaking every chess rule to win against the then number 18th chess player in the world in just 18 moves. The match is between Magnus Carlsen and the Polish Grandmaster Duda. Magnus Carlsen was white and he opens the game with d4, the queen's pawn move. The Polish GM responds with knight f6. We get c4 and e6, then knight c3 and d5. These few moves are casual moves, the queen's gambit for anyone who knows it. We get a series of exchanges in the center and even more trades in the center, which brings us to this position. Duda in this position is not only threatening to take the pawn on c3, but to also check the king. As a normal chess player, your instinct will be to guard the pawn. But when you are Magnus Carlsen, I think that is not necessarily needed. So Magnus Carlsen ignores it all. I will say that again. Magnus Carlsen actually ignores it all to play the move rook to b1. Seeing that Magnus Carlsen did not flinch, Duda must have thought for Magnus Carlsen to have ignored my threat, probably that is a poisoned pawn. So rather than capturing, Duda actually plays the move knight to d7 to see if Magnus Carlsen will still eventually protect the pawn. The game is actually tilting towards a psychological battle right now. This position we're actually in is not a strange one at all. Other GMs have actually reached this position, and what they normally do is to push the pawn to c4 just to guard it. But Magnus Carlsen is definitely not like any other GM, so he plays another rare move, bishop to d3. Now in my eyes, in your eyes, and in the eyes of many chess players in the world, this move is simply a blunder. Because if the queen now proceeds to capture the pawn on c3, Magnus Carlsen will have to move his king, losing his right to castle. And who does that? No one has even played this move before, bishop to d3. As a matter of fact, is a very rare move, and it's actually a novelty in this position. The big issue in this position is that after the queen on c7 captures the pawn on c3, white cannot use his dark squared bishop to block the check because that would drop the white bishop. Also, a queen trade would not be favorable in this position because white is a pawn down, and going into an endgame that way smells danger. So after Duda eventually plays the move by capturing the pawn on c3, Magnus Carlsen breaks another chess rule. Another classical chess rule flies out of the window. Magnus Carlsen moves his king. With this move, he loses a pawn and he also loses a tempo. He seems to be losing everything, but he has not lost the game, so let's continue analyzing. The game continues with bishop to e7 by Duda, and guess what? Guess what Magnus Carlsen responds with? Magnus Carlsen plays the unthinkable pawn to h4. With this move, Magnus Carlsen ignores another opening rule that says we must develop our minor pieces and castle and should not move the pawns on the wing in the beginning of the game. But he's Magnus Carlsen and probably is immune to all of these rules, so he can get away with it. Does this move actually make sense? Well, we will never know, but let's continue. Duda castles. Magnus Carlsen leaves his rook, extraying Duda's queen. Take a look at this position. It is actually a cool one on the surface, but it is a false wall of safety that can be broken swiftly if Duda is not careful. For example, if Duda ignores this threat and plays any random move, he would lose the game instantly, as Magnus Carlsen will simply sack his bishop to lure the king out and would move his knight to g5, checking the king and also opening a discovered attack on Black's queen. Black would definitely have to address the check and would lose the game after the rook captures the queen. Obviously, the move did not happen. Duda plays the move knight to f6 just to avert the danger. But that knight guards the pawn, so if black decides to sack the bishop, simply take with the knights and would not have to bring their king out. What makes this game one of the rarest is that Carlsen is actually playing moves that are seemingly suspicious. Moves that if you were to take the players out of the board, you would actually think it is a beginner moving these pieces. But let's see if he's going to get away with it. Magnus Carlsen proceeds with knight to e5. Pay attention, pay attention. This move is not just any move. It reactivates the threat of white sacking the bishop, opening a discovered attack on the black queen. For those of you thinking, well, black can simply take the free d pawn, that would be a blunder as well because it falls short to the bishop sack on h7, and white will simply cash in on the black queen with his queen. For this reason, Duda plays the move queen to a5. We get rook to g3 from Carlsen to continue his attack. This move actually opens a threat of bishop to h6, which is a really strong move. To illustrate, if black ignores the threat of bishop to h6 and plays any random move, white is definitely threatening to take the pawn. So if black tries to play knight to h5 to defend the pawn, that would definitely be impossible because the queen simply captures it. The only solution is for black to actually move the pawn forward and would definitely lose the rook. It's obviously bad for business. And if they ignore it all and give up the pawn, that is actually the worst of it all. And the game will quickly end with rook take on g7, king to h8, rook back to g3, opening an attack on the black rook. And if they dare move the rook away to avoid being captured, let's say, for example, rook to e8, they lose the game with knight f7. But because Duda is not a dumb chess player like you and me, at least for the main time, he plays the move king to h8 to remove the king from the pin and to also take the sting out of the move bishop h6, as that would no longer be possible because black would simply capture the bishop with their pawn. In response to Duda's move, Magnus Carlsen plays the move bishop to g5, adding more pieces to the attack. The intent of this move is simple: to trade off the bishop with the knight so as to remove black's only defender of the king. Then overall the black's king with all of his pieces pointing towards that direction. To stop all of these shenanigans, Duda simply plays the move pawn to h6 to chase the bishop away. This is actually a very normal move. A normal chess player would definitely move their bishop away. But this is Magnus Carlsen. Rather than moving the bishop away, Magnus Carlsen sacks the bishop to expose the king. After this move, Magnus Carlsen plays a quiet move, queen to f3. This move is actually a very strange one because normally after you sack your bishop in chess, we typically look for checks that would lead to mate, or we find a way to forcefully break through our opponent's defense, just like in the Greek sacrifice and many other sacrificial patterns that are common in chess. But here in this position, Magnus Carlsen plays the quiet move queen to f3, which actually feels like a casual move. But guess what? What makes this move actually crazy is that after this seemingly quiet move, black's response was, guess what? Black actually resigns, because there's actually no way for him to actually stop the imminent attack by white that would eventually lead to checkmate. Do you want to know why black resigned in this position? Well, I'm not going to be the one to give you that answer. If you know the answer, drop it in the comment section. I'll see you there. Thank you very much for watching this video to this point. Kindly like, share, and subscribe so other people can see how chess is actually a blend of uniqueness and, I would say, madness, because you are told all the rules of thumb. Then when you get to a particular level in chess, you see that it's another thing entirely. Grandmasters are actually breaking these rules, but if you dare try to break any of these rules, you get into trouble as quickly as possible. State in the comment section how Magnus Carlsen is eventually going to win the game. Thank you very much. Kindly like, share, and subscribe once again so that my content and my channel would reach other people. There's more content. Enjoy the rest of your day.